Poker 103. The Rules of No Limit Hold'em. No Limit Texas Hold'em has been the dominant form of poker since the poker boom in 2003, so it's a great first game to learn. Setup. In a typical tournament, all players buy in for the same amount of money and receive the same amount of chips. In a cash game, players buy in for varying amounts as directed by the minimum and maximum buy-in for that table. A player who buys in for more doesn't have an advantage. That player may win more or lose more. For the first hand at a table, each player is dealt a card face up. The highest card gets the dealer button, using suits to break ties. A Hand of No Limit Hold'em. On each round of betting, or street, the player to the left of the dealer button is first to act, and play proceeds to the left from there. The dealer has the advantage of being the last to act. Pre-flop. The players to the left of the dealer button post blind bets rather than taking a normal turn. The first player to the left of the dealer posts the small blind, and the next player posts the big blind. Both the blind bet and the player who posted that bet are called by these names. The small blind is typically 1/2 the size of the big blind. The dealer gives 2 whole cards to each player, one at a time, starting with the small blind. In home games, the player with the dealer button usually does in fact deal the cards. In casinos, there is a professional dealer who does not play. The white dealer button is usually just called the button, as is the player who currently has this marker. The player to the left of the big blind is under the gun and acts first pre-flop. Players in turn must fold, call, or raise. Fold. Discard your hand to the middle of the table and give up your chance to win the pot. Call. Match the largest bet so far this round. The big blind is the first bet pre-flop, and calling this bet is derisively called limping in. Raise. Exceed the largest bet so far this round. If the action gets to the big blind and everyone has folded, that player is given a walk and takes any blinds and antes. If the action gets to the big blind and some players have limped in but no one has raised, the big blind gets an option to raise or check and proceed to the flop. If at any time all players but one have folded, that player wins the pot without a showdown. Once all other players have folded or called the largest bet, play proceeds to the next round. The player who initiated the largest bet is called the aggressor. The flop. The dealer burns 1 card face down and places 3 cards face up. The face-up cards are called community cards, which any player may use as if they were in their hand at showdown. The player to the left of the dealer is the first to act, as always, skipping over all players who have folded. Each player may check or bet if no one has yet bet. Checking is like calling zero, or skipping your turn without having to fold. If a player bets, the remaining players must, in turn, fold, call, or raise as before. The minimum initial bet is equal to the big blind. If all players check, or all other players have folded or called the largest bet, move on to the next round of betting. The turn and river. The dealer burns 1 card and places 1 card face up. Betting then proceeds as on the flop. The turn is after the flop and will see the 4th community card. The river is after the turn and will see the 5th and final community card. Showdown. When the betting round is complete after the river is dealt, all players who have not folded go to showdown. Each player in turn shows his 2 hole cards. The player's final hand is the best 5 cards from the 7 cards available. 2 whole cards and 5 community cards. 2 of these 7 cards will be ignored. Whichever player has the best hand wins the pot. If multiple players tie, the pot is chopped between them, proceeding to the next hand. In a cash game, players may rebuy or add on to their stack if they are below the table maximum, leave the table to cash out, but players may not rat hole or remove chips even if they are above the table maximum. The dealer button moves to the left. Usually the previous small blind will be the new button. A new hand begins, starting with posting blinds and dealing whole cards. A few other notes. A raise must be at least as big an increase as the previous raise. For example, in a game with a $5 big blind, the first raise must be to at least $10. If a player raises the $5 big blind by putting $20 in front of his cards, the next player must fold, call the $20, or raise to at least $35. Since the previous raise was an increase of $15, future raises on this street must be at least $15. While there are minimum bets, there is no maximum bet up to all of your chips. A player may not lose more than he started the hand with, but may not win from any player more than he started the hand with. This rule is called table stakes and is very important in big bet games like No Limit Hold'em. When you bet or call, don't splash the pot. Place your bet in front of your cards. All bets will be swept into the pot at the end of the betting round. Conclusion. You now know the rules of No Limit Hold'em. If you want to learn poker strategy, check out Poker 104, Fundamental Poker Concepts. Poker 105, How to Play No Limit Hold'em Preflop. And Poker 106, How to Play No Limit Hold'em Postflop. Thanks for listening, and as always, please gamble responsibly.